This spring was forbidden then, now too forbidden. The caste of birth forbidden. The chosen struggle forbidden. It may have been yesterday, maybe today, maybe any time. This spring was forbidden then, now too forbidden. Chapter 1. First, I will introduce Ruth to you. Then I will tell you the story. Those who know her as a writer may ask me not to dare introduce their favorite writer to them anew. True, she has written innumerable stories, innumerable poems, but I am not going to introduce you now to Ruth, the writer, or to her writings. Just to Ruth, the Ruth I know. Ruth sits all by herself all day since Reuben's death. She has been sitting alone for many years. She sits alone and stares at the sky. In the sky, a lone star is visible. The rest of the stars disappear as if they have nothing to do with her. Then, in front of her eyes, on the half-broken high wall, appears the painting of Jesus on the cross. The reason used to be beautiful then. More than medicines, it was the environment that would heal the sick. She used to be a nurse there. Her Reuben was the hospital's pastor. The past recedes. The present is before her. If we build a nest and perch in the past that has gone by, the present too will become the past. But Ruth says her memory does not relate to the past. She says Reuben is always her present. As silently as Reuben came into her life, he left just as silently. He who went away did not go just like that. He showered innumerable springs on her all through her life and left. He narrated how a memory blossomed at every turn and withered away, told stories, wove poems, causing an upsurge. He left, asking her to keep this memory in her heart. In truth, it is not a memory, a surge. How to contain that flow? He started to tell his story on a on a moonlit night. He told it over many nights. He said the same thing over and over again. He told it over many nights. He said the same thing over and over again. He laughed and he narrated, cried as he narrated. His eyes sparkled then. His eyes got wet then. She hid that sparkle in her eyes. She smeared that wetness of her eyelids. In truth, they are not just the memories he shared. Wet eyes wrench the heart, touch the spinal cord. They haunt. He and his ancestors swam in the savage flow of flood waters. Some were washed away, some sought shores like untiring boat swains. What kind of a man was her Reuben? What a wonderful person, that beautiful, untouchable. These words may sound strange, but Ruth uses those words simply, naturally. She used to speak those words to Reuben himself. Oh, my beautiful, untouchable man. She would call him like that innumerable times. Then Reuben would look at her like a child, his eyes be filled with innocence. Something that happened many years ago. It seems as if it had happened only yesterday. Not yesterday, it seems to be happening right now in front of our eyes. She had set out with him when he told her he would show her his ancestors' place. On foot, soon after their marriage. It was the first time they had walked together, just the two of them after marriage. A journey along the stream bunt, the sky spreading the moonlight, the flutter of tiny little fish jumping about in the stream. As she walked along with him, alone together, an amazing solitary experience. Then he began narrating about the downpour of moonshine, about the movement of the rapid stream, about the untouchable spring. We have walked a long distance. We have got to walk this much more. It may take the whole night. How do you feel? Are you tired? No, it's new. It's strange. Shall I tell you a story? Tell me. Reuben had not yet begun the story. For a moment, they did not know what happened. A night bird darted in from the side, making a horrendous noise. In the moonlight, they kept looking at it as long as it was visible. Its cry kept ringing in their ears. Yenela Pita. Yenela Pita is an imaginary bird the writer conjures up using the words Yenela, moonlight, and Pita is bird. Yenela Pita, always like that. It shrieks as if something catastrophic has happened. Speeds past as if someone is chasing. Is not seen again. Is not heard again. If Reuben was to tell her those things now, she would not believe him. She remembers the bird vividly, hears it always. Whenever she remembers the story Reuben narrated, she remembers the Yenela Pita. It was a story told to Reuben's grandfather by his grandfather. There is Shiva in it, Parvati too. They have a cow, Kamdhenu. It gives honeyed milk. Normally, a cow's milk does not ooze honey, but Kamdhenu's milk is suffused with honey. With that milk, Parvati makes a feast for the gods and goddesses. Only the gods have a right to that feast. Rishis are the only special invitees. There is a young man who takes care of this Kamdhenu, which has special powers. His name is Chennaiya. One day he is tempted to drink the honeyed milk. He reveals his desire to Parvati. Parvati says no, but the young man cannot overcome his desire. He repeats it to Parvati many a time. Parvati tells Chennaiya, go ask Kamdhenu yourself. Chenna. He does that, just that. He reveals his desire to Kamdhenu, a wonder. As soon as Kamdhenu hears the request, she collapses on the ground, dead. Shiva and Parvati come to know of Kamdhenu's death. The news travels to the gods and goddesses. Shiva and Parvati think of cooking Kamdhenu's meat and offering it as a feast for the gods and goddesses. Kamdhenu's milk used to ooze honey. Anticipating how delicious her meat would be, all the gods goddesses, and rishis swarm around the dead Kamdhenu, smacking their lips. But there is a problem. Kamdhenu has to be removed from the spot where it died. That's the custom, says the gods and goddesses. If that's not done, the Shastra will not accept it, say the rishis. Everyone agrees, but even all the gods and goddesses do not possess the strength to move the dead Kamdhenu. Finally, the rishis suggest that Jamvanta alone has the power to move it. Shiva calls Chennaya. He orders him to go and get Jamvanta. Tatha, Maha, Digra, Tatha, great, come down. Chennaya shouts so loudly that he can be heard in all the corners of the world. Whether Jamvanta climbed down from the sky or rose from the earth, we do not know. He appears from somewhere in the three worlds. He looks at Kamdhenu, he sees the gods and goddesses. He speaks to the rishis, they tell him what to do. That's it. Jambanta lifts Kamdhenu with his left hand. The gods and goddesses bless Jambanta. The rishis shout cries of victory. On such occasions, gods, goddesses, and rishis do just that. That may be a convention. They tell him how far and where he should take Kamdhenu. As the gods, goddesses, and rishis follow him, Jambanta takes Kamdhenu to the place where they ask him to. The gods cut up the cow, skin it. Then they ask Jambanta to divide the meat of the cow into two parts. They ask him to cook only one part. They say that they will recite a mantra and bring Kamdhenu back to life. They depart. They are immersed in a discussion about the cow's meat they are about to eat. Jambanta does not divide the meat into two parts as told. He starts to cook the entire meat. As he is stirring the meat, a piece falls to the ground. It gets smeared with mud. That piece becomes defiled. Chennaya cleans the piece and puts it back in the meat that is being cooked. Shiva and Parvati come to know of this. The gods and goddesses are furious with Jambavanta for not dividing the meat into two parts. They are angry with Chennaya for putting the defiled piece of meat into the meat being cooked. Neither Shiva nor the gods can do anything but curse. They are angry. Shiva curses. He curses Jambavanta and Chennaya to live in Kalyuga, eating the meat of dead cows and sweeping the bazaars. All the gods, goddesses, and rishis sing a chorus that this curse would last till eternity. Jambavanta and Chennaya eat the cooked meat. In Kalyuga, Jamvanta's children become Madigas. Chennaya children become Malas. Reuben had looked at her as if to say that the story was over. She did not speak a word. She is silent. How's the concocted story? He asked, smiling. My grandfather told it so convincingly. My grandfather narrated it as if it were really true. The story of my birth and your birth. Where did we come from? From a curse? From the wrath of the gods? From the piece of meat that fell out? Why is it so? Though he spoke forcefully, he did not speak in anger. He was smiling as he spoke. But she did not say anything even then. She searched for the Yenalapita. She felt it would be nice if it went by making a deafening noise. She said this to Reuben. He replied that he would call out to the Yenalapita. He cried out almost all like the Yenalapita. His shout would have reached a great distance, tearing through the silence. It would have echoed till a great distance. At that time, it had just seemed like a strange tale. It would not appear simply strange now. It would appear grotesque, would seem as if there were no other story more cruel than that. She feels that in Reuben's laugh, they, that day there was rejection of and ridicule for that story. It comes back to her. If she sifts through every detail carefully, she feels that when she unthinkingly talked of the Yenalapita, Reuben imitated its call. Now she feels it was not an imitation. She was not able to hear a man's agony in the imitation that day. Truly, it was the agony of an untouchable. It was a condemnation of his birth that was so cruelly painted, of the crime committed on him in history. A true remonstrance, a rejection indeed. That's why Ruth says that her memory is not past. She says it is an untouchable spring, beginning like waves upon waves and touching the sky. It breaks out and booms like the thunderous sound of the oceanic waves, she says. There is no twist in the tale for that spring. All that there is a continuation, like a song, like a poem, plumbing the depths, scraping the consign.